Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how I do the Grow With Me dress hack. This can be done with other dresses that are a similar style, not just this one, but I'm going to be working with that pattern today. And you need a yard of fabric if you're doing up to the 6-year. I don't have a solid yard or a report that I want to use, so I do have 3 different prints that I'm going to be using. And I will show you as I go how I'm going to use them. This print specifically, it's not a full yard. It's just a little bit off, which is still fine. I'm going to be doing the gather skirt, so I'm going to be going as far as I can this way. This is the full length, by the way, like it's folded over right here. So I'm going to go as far as I can this way, leaving off those few inches, and I'm going to gather for the skirt for mine. You do not have to gather. You can do a round skirt and then just cut a slit, or you can do the normal skirt that it does in the regular pattern, but you'll have a seam on the back, and I don't want a seam on the back. So I'm going to gather, or I would do the circle skirt. But let's get started. Okay, so I measured the pattern, and with the pattern for the skirt, I just measured the length on the pattern itself. I have my projector up behind me, so I can't show you. But this is just a little bit more than what I need for the length. So I can go ahead and cut off these folded pieces that I don't want in my way. Especially because this is going to be the bottom, so this is upside down right now. So this is going to be the bottom, and I don't want my skirt hem to be fighting these folds. Even if I iron, they're not going to come out completely. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut straight across here and cut some of that off, making sure that I keep the length that I need for my skirt. And I am doing the short length, not the long. So now this is just right under a yard in width. I should actually measure that real quick. Hold on one second. Okay, glad I measured. This is 40 inches, unfolded, 40 inches. That's fine. It just depends on how much you want it to gather. On the last one, I had very minimal gathering, and that was the one I used for my blog. And on the sunshine one that I have at the top of my blog, it has about the same amount of gathering as this. I would love to try the circle skirt, but this is directional, so I cannot. So got that cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of my other pieces as normal, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've got all of my pieces except the placket and the cuffs. I need to do the cuffs. But the cuffs and the placket I'm doing with the rib knit I showed you in the beginning, so I haven't cut them yet. So this is the front. So I just cut the front like you usually do, and then I opened it and I cut straight down the middle. Now with the placket, if you don't want this to be as big as it is, you can cut off 1/2 inch from both sides and then add the placket. I found that this way really made it fit a lot easier, especially whenever you're putting it over something. So I'm leaving mine the way it is, but if you don't want to have to stretch, because whenever we put on the hood, I'm going to be stretching the back. If you don't want to have to stretch whenever you are sewing on the hood, then go ahead and cut this 1/2 inch off, 1/2 inch off. So I just measured this, and it is 4 inches is the opening for the top. So I open it up. This is 4 inches. Sorry about that. So 4, and then I go ahead and do 3 across. So I'm going to cut an 8 because 4 and 4, 8 long and 3 wide strip, and then just cut it in half so that it's 4. So I cut out my strips. They are 4 inches by 3 inches, and then I'm folding them over. Now whenever I cut out my interfacing, let me grab the interfacing I used to show you. This is the interfacing I use. It's fusible non-woven interfacing. I think I got this one from Joann's. You can get it on Amazon though. And the link should be in my blog for items that I use or supplies that I use. So I'm just going to be cutting the interfacing just a little bit smaller than this, and I'll be right back to show you how big it is. So these are the inside of my rib pieces for the plackets, and I just cut pieces that just fit right inside of them. You don't have to be very exact, it doesn't matter too much, but I just make sure that they fit inside. This is going to be my seam allowance anyway, so I don't really need the interfacing there. So I'm just going to iron that on. So while I'm waiting for my iron to heat up, I just wanted to go over some more options that you could do. So for the hood, you can do different hoods. I really like the hood, I believe it's Ellie & Max Aubrey. It's the spiral hood that you see on my sunshine dress. I really like that hood. And since it's not supposed to overlap, it fits on there just fine without any pulling. So there's multiple options for the hood. You can also do a hood band like I did in the sunshine. Because it didn't have to overlap, I did have extra room that I could put the band. Then on the skirt, I saw where somebody did, I saw where somebody did already do my hack, which is awesome. Thank you. Please tag me because I love seeing them. They went ahead and did the placket all the way down the inside of the skirt too, so that they could do buttons going down the inside. That is also totally an option. I really like to do the bands at the bottom too. So if you wanted to do a band at the bottom instead of doing a hemmed bottom, you can do that and just measure your opening and cut a strip for that. If you're wanting to do the placket all the way down the front, just do the 3 inches in width and measure from the bottom all the way to the top of the dress. So just measure all the way down. I like to have this open. I wanted this to just be a cute little top jacket. So this is the only part that buttons, and then this is an opening. It does overlap, so it does stay closed. It doesn't like fly open whenever she's running around. But if you wanted to do that, you could. You could also do a band, and this goes to either going all the way down your skirt or just going on this. If you picked a different hood and you wanted to do a hood band, since I'm doing this hood today, I wanted to keep with the pattern today for the tutorial, but what I was planning on doing the next time I did this tutorial was to do a hood band that continued down the placket, so that it's one solid piece and lines up perfectly. So if anybody gets to do that before I do, please tag me. I want to know how it turns out, because that was what I wanted to do next time I made it. But like I said, I really wanted to stick with what the pattern comes with, so there's no extras that you need. It's just measuring, and you need the interfacing and buttons. All right, my iron should be heated up, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause this back. All right, I got those ironed on. I'm going to go ahead and sew these on and sew the hood together so that whenever I do my top stitching with my cover stitch, I can do the dress, the placket pieces, and the hood all at one time. So I'm going to go sew those on and I will be back. Alright, so I got these sewn on. I just serged. I used to use my sewing machine. I got my serger I want to say 3 months ago, maybe 4, right before Christmas. I used to use my Singer heavy duty sewing machine. It's the old one where it has 3 different sewing types. So there was the S1 and S2 as well as just the normal. And it had a really good overlocking stitch, and I used an overlock foot. And that worked really well for me. I do prefer the serge, of course, but if you can't use a serger, that works just fine. So I got these serged, and I went ahead and put my hood together because now I'm going to go through and do my cover stitch. If you use a twin needle or a band or even just top stitching, because this isn't going to be an area that needs to be stretched. Whatever you do is fine. I do have a cover stitch machine. I was lucky enough to find one on super sale. It is linked in my blog, as well as my sewing machine and my serger. The cover stitch I use is the Brother, I don't know what numbers because it doesn't say on the outside, but I got it for like $350 on Amazon one day, and I think right now it's at $450, but look out for those deals. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to cover stitch here, cover stitch along my hood, and cover stitch along the bottom hem and the 2 openings. Go ahead and fold them in. All right, I got everything top stitched. Have all of this part done all the way around the back. The hood I went ahead and top stitched, and I went ahead and top stitched where the placket is. Okay, so now I'm going to go through, since I'm doing the gathered skirt, I'm going to go through and do 2 stitches on my sewing machine, 2 lines, and I'll come back and show you what those look like. I'm going to do them on length of 4. Okay, so I went ahead and did my stitches to do my gathered skirt, but I'm going to need to put my top together. So I have right sides up, and then if you have a right side to your back, right side down, so that the outsides are all that I can see, so that I can go ahead and stitch these top pieces. Sorry, my sun's coming in a little bit different now. I'll try to fix that in a second. But I'm going to seam up here on top of the shoulders, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the armbands on. Alright, so I went ahead and sewed the shoulders, put on the armbands, and then I just sewed the sides together. So now it just opens up. So now I have my gathered hem. So if you don't know how to gather, I did the bobbin spool a different color than the top, so that I knew which one was which once I got done, just in case you forget. So you pull the bobbin thread whenever you're gathering. So just show you real quick. On one end you need to do a back stitch to lock in your stitch, and on the other end you don't. So you just grab it and pull, and it'll gather. So I'm going to gather it until it reaches about the size of my skirt. I like to go a little bit under, because it will move as I sew, and then I'll have a ton left over right here at the end, and then I'll have to stretch, and I don't want to do that. So I do make the gathering a tad smaller than what I need. I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so I went ahead and gathered my my skirt. I do have it gathered just a tad shorter. Get it lined up. I have it gathered just about one of the plackets shorter than the rest, because whenever I do sew, sometimes it pushes. So it'll all work out in the end. So I'm going to get this sewn on, and I will be right back. So I got it all serged on. Move my camera over a little bit. There we go. Got it all serged on. I went ahead and tied off my ends, and now I'm just going to tuck them in. I use I think it's called a knit pick. And then I just go in. Of course, it wants to be difficult when I'm on camera. Go in, grab it, and pull it through. And that hides it. This is just my seam from when I was gathering. I'll have to go through and take out any strings that are still visible on the other side, like right there. I don't know if you can even see that. But I'll have to go through and get any of those strings out from the other side. But so I tucked in those, tuck in this side, and then I'll go get those strings out. Okay, so now I'm going to get the hood on. So I have my placket area done, just pulled through. I'm going to go ahead and start attaching my hood. I need to find the middle of the back So just folding over, connecting at those shoulder seams, finding the middle. I use clips. I don't really care for pins. Some pins leave holes in your fabric depending on the fabric type, and they stick me. I don't really care for them. If I don't have to use them, I don't. I use clips a ton, and they are in my supplies used. So now I'm going to clip on my hood. I'm putting right sides together, so the correct side of the back with the outside of the hood. I did line my hood. You don't have to. You can just fold over and stitch, or do a band and not line. So now I line up with the front. And do the same with the other side. So as you can see, it is going to fit pretty well. The only spots that I pull is if I have to pull, I only pull in the back. You might not have to whenever you are going through and just checking. I hold them together and just go through and check from piece to piece. That lays pretty flat. I might pull just a tad here in the back to make sure that it lines up really well in the front. So I might pull just a hair to make sure it lines up. But as of right now, it looks like it lines up pretty well. So I'm just going to start sewing from here down and do the same. And then I'll be back. All right, so got my seams done. Here's here's the placket area. Lines up pretty well. If you wanted to, you could go around and top stitch the hood area, the neckband. I wouldn't do the waistband, but the neckband you could go around top stitch, and that'll keep this from pushing up. I'm just gonna leave it down. It doesn't bother me any. It's not like sticking out or anything. So I'm gonna leave it. Now I'm gonna put on my snaps. You can do actual buttons and do your buttonholes. You can do the Velcro. I'm just using cam snaps. You can use metal ones too. I'm just gonna use some cam ones. I get mine on Amazon. My link is in my supplies used blog. I just made this quick little template for myself. It's about the size of my placket. And then I fold it in half. So now I know my middle. So I'm going to do my middle one. And then I made 2 notches to the side. They are 1 1/4 inches away from the middle so that I make them even. And then whenever I do them on the other side, they'll be even there too. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. All right, my buttons are done. So now I'm going to move out of this area and go ahead and get some photos on my little mannequin for you. All right, it's all done. Ignore my setup. This is just where I take my photos. So it's all finished. Like I said, this does not bother me. Come on, focus. I can't get it to focus all the way, but this does not bother me. But if you wanted to, you could top stitch just this part down, or you could top stitch all the way around and it would hold it down like that. It doesn't bother me any. You can't notice it whenever it's being worn. So, oh, we got some stray strings. Sorry, didn't look at the back. There's the back. I'll get some final photos to add to this post.